A single violin note floated through the Grand Marivella's chandelier forest, trembling exactly the way Zara Wells's calves did as she wove between mirrored pillars. She balanced a platter stacked with vintage-cut crystal flutes, 15 of them, each worth more than the monthly rent on her studio apartment in South Hollow. 8 months of pregnancy had shifted her center of gravity forward, so every step felt like walking a tightrope in slow motion. "Keep breathing, Mama," whispered Mimi, the senior waitress, gliding past with the practiced ease of a swan. "Exhale on the turns." Zara exhaled, felt her belly brush the platter's edge, and bit back a grimace. She had taken the Saturday double shift because tips at a royal-sponsored charity gala were legendary. The baby's crib still sat in an online cart, waiting for her next paycheck. The ballroom itself seemed stolen from an imperial dream. Murals of golden constellations sprawled across a vaulted ceiling, and from each painted star hung a real crystal teardrop, multiplying the candlelight until the walls looked alive. Beneath that glittering astronomy gathered the solar system of the ultra-rich, royal cousins, tech heirs, dynasty widows, and boardroom kings, each orbiting their own importance. Zara reached table 9, designated Platinum Circle on the seating chart. A chef's kiss of anxiety landed on her tongue when she spotted Rian Lok long before he noticed her. She had not seen her ex-boyfriend in nearly a year, ever since he ghosted after learning she was pregnant. In the meantime, she had traded graduate school dreams for survival shifts and prenatal vitamins. She began setting flutes in front of guests, keeping her head down the way Mimi had coached, elbows tucked, wrists loose. The moment the last glass touched linen, a hush rippled through the table. "Zara?" Rian's voice cut through music and memory at once. "Zara Wells?" A dozen faces turned, curiosity sharpening into voyeurism. Zara straightened, heat flooding her cheeks. "Good evening, sir," she said, tone professional, as though her heart weren't galloping. Rian's tuxedo lip sculpted, his jaw shaved so cleanly it might have squeaked. He leaned back, green eyes glittering with a cruel nostalgia. "Didn't recognize you with all that." His gaze slid to her belly. Monique, his influencer girlfriend, Zara recognized her from Diamond skincare ads, covered her mouth as if to stifle a giggle, though the giggle made it through. "Wait, you two dated?" "That is, precious." She looked Zara up and down the way a shopper inspects a dented tin on a supermarket shelf. Laughter burst like shattering glass. Zara's fingers tightened around the tray until the metal bit her palm. She inhaled Mimi's turn-away strategy, but before she could retreat, a different pair of eyes caught hers from across the room. The man by the bar. Tall, broad, skin the shade of dark amber, tuxedo crisp yet somehow secondary to the quiet authority he wore like aftershave. He didn't look away, he offered a nod, small, respectful, reassuring. It felt like a life preserver thrown across a storm. Zara steadied her spine, whispered "Enjoy your evening" to the table, and backed away. As she disappeared into the corridor, she missed the way the man at the bar murmured to his braided bodyguard. "Find out her name." Hook, Zara had no idea that the man watching her was royalty in disguise. 15 minutes later, the kitchen corridor smelled of burnt caramel and bleach. Zara pressed both hands to the cool tile wall, eyes closed, forehead damp. Mimi appeared, voice low. "They want the chocolate mousse run." Platinum Circle again. Her sympathy sat like a warm blanket over cold shoulders. "You sure you're up for it?" "What choice do I have?" Zara replied. "Rent, crib, prenatal pills." She splashed water on her face, patted it dry with a paper towel, and willed the baby to stop kicking like a tap dancer. Back inside the ballroom, she carried 7 plates of dark chocolate silk balanced on a silver platter the size of a satellite dish. Every step clanged inside her head. 1. Rent. 2. Diapers. 3. You are not what they say. At table 9, Rian pointed his phone camera toward her like a hunter taking aim. Monique's phone was already recording vertically. "Careful, everyone," Rian announced loudly. "Incoming dairy disaster." Laughter burst again. Zara set the first plate. The second. When she reached Rian, Monique accidentally flicked her wrist, clipping Zara's elbow. The platter lurched. Time slowed. One moose slid, tumbled, and broke apart against Rian's chest in an explosion of cocoa. Gasps rippled, cell cameras jumped to life. Rian vaulted up, voice booming. Are you insane? Do you know how much this tux costs? Her apology clogged in her throat. Monique's laughter speared the tension. Guess they'll dock her paycheck, though from the looks of her, that's pocket change. Tears finally breached Zara's composure. The violinists faltered, the conductor glared. Then a new voice severed the moment. That will be quite enough. The amber-skinned man from the bar stepped beside her. Close now. Zara saw a subtle golden pin, a stylized sun cradled in a crown, glint on his lapel. Rian sneered. Who the hell are you? Someone with less dessert on his shirt. Calm, warm, lethal. Rian's face colored. This is none of your. It became mine when you decided humiliation was entertainment. He turned to Zara, offering a crisp linen handkerchief. Are you hurt, miss? Kindness in his eyes unmoored her. She shook her head, words failing. Allow me to escort you to the kitchen, he said. Mimi scooped the fallen plates like a battlefield medic. The stranger placed a guiding hand an inch from Zara's elbow, near enough to study, not to presume, and led her out to hushed applause rising from unexpected corners of the hall. Monique's phone captured it all, the chocolate stain, the stranger's quiet chivalry, Zara's trembling dignity. Hook, Zara fought the tears. But someone else at that table noticed everything. Hotel security made no move to stop the stranger when he guided Zara onto the secluded rooftop terrace. Night air wrapped her like cool silk. I'm fine, she insisted. You don't have to. Humor me, he said. Fresh air heals indignity faster than apologies. The accent was lilting, somewhere between West Africa and the Mediterranean. Under a patio lamp he looked younger than she'd guessed, early 30s, yet with eyes that had watched empires rise and crumble. Zara tucked hair behind her ear. I should get back to work or I'll be fired. He withdrew a slim gold-edged card. The crest she'd seen on his lapel gleamed in the corner. Show this to the floor manager. If they discipline you, they'll answer to me. Zara blinked. Who are you? Someone who understands being underestimated. His gaze dipped to her belly. Your child is lucky. You're made of tempered steel. The compliment picked the lock on her composure, tears slipped free. Hey, he said softly, pressing a folded napkin into her palm. For you. She looked down. You deserve more than crumbs, You wrote this? He offered a small bow. I did. Before she could speak, his bodyguard, a statuesque woman, appeared. Your Highness, ambassadors await. The title blew open Zara's comprehension. Highness? He winced like a curtain pulled too early. I was enjoying being nameless for an evening. Knees wobbling, Zara whispered, You're a king. A very minor one, he teased. My country is the size of this city, but my people have big hearts. He slipped a phone number into her hand. Call if you need anything, prenatal care, legal advice, a friend. I don't want charity. I'm offering reparations, he said. For every time a fool tried to convince you that you were less. Then, kneeling so their eyes were level, he addressed her belly, Little star, this world can be harsh, but if your mother allows, I will make it softer where I can. Zara swallowed a sob. That's the kindest thing anyone's done for us. He bowed once more. Until tomorrow, Miss Wells. Inside the ballroom, Monique tapped post on the video she imagined would make her famous. Hook, the king had a plan. And it started tonight. Zara's apartment smelled of curry, incense, and old carpets. She hung the uniform on a nail, eased swollen feet from shoes, and massaged her arches, speaking to her stomach. He was a king, Peanut. A real king. A kick responded, skeptical. She showered, then placed the golden napkin under a sunflower magnet on the fridge, next to the gold-edged card. She dialed the number once, heart thundering, but hung up after the first ring. Don't be ridiculous. At 2 a.m. a text pinged, did you make it home safely? Yes. Thank you, Elias. Good night. Sleep found her quickly, but morning found her phone buzzing like a trapped bee. Monique's clip, captioned "Knocked Up Waitress Drama Face with Tears of Joy," had gone hugely viral, and the internet was not amused at Zara's expense. Pregnancy isn't a punchline. Who raises men like Rian? Somebody find that Queen's baby registry. A feminist activist reposted the slowed-down clip of the stranger stepping between Zara and Rian, overlaying "Protect Black Mothers." Views skyrocketed. Amid 20,000 unread DMs was blue-checked at Elias official, "Your grace" spoke louder than their mockery. Be ready for what's next. Across the ocean, Elias told his staff, draft a formal invitation. She attends Friday's Palace Gala, as my guest. Huck, why would a stranger care? By late afternoon, TikTok detectives had matched the stranger's lapel pin to the national emblem of Orellana. Headlines detonated, "Mystery King defends pregnant waitress." Reporters camped outside the diner where Zara worked mornings, hurling questions. "Ms. Wells, are you dating His Majesty? Did your ex abandon you during pregnancy?" Her boss, Pete, swung a broom like a gladiator. "Next person blocks my entrance, they get the dish hose." Moments later, a silver-templed envoy entered, breaking a wax seal. "Miss Wells, by royal decree you are invited to the Winter Light Gala at the Palace of Orellana, 4 nights hence. Transportation, attire, and accommodations provided." Pete read the itinerary. "Kid, they're flying you first-class lay-flat. And there's a stipend, 5 figures. Doubts surfaced. What if they change their mind? Pete shrugged. Courage isn't fearlessness, it's letting fear ride shotgun while you drive anyway. Drive, Zara. That night Zara went live on Instagram. Viewers climbed past 2 million as she answered questions about cravings and courage. Midstream, an Elias official donated $5,000 to a charity for single mothers, adding, "We look forward to welcoming the entire committee." Chat exploded in rose emojis. Before bed she opened a note titled "Questions for the King." 1. Why me? 2. What does kindness cost a country? 3. Would you still have helped if no one filmed? 4. How does a queen mother change the throne? Phone glowing beside her, she dreamed of a ballroom of starlight where kings served her hot cocoa and the world applauded simply because she dared to stand. Hook, #Zara deserves better trends globally. Snow flurried past the diner's steamed-up windows as Zara balanced a tray of blueberry waffles. The morning rush sounded like silverware thunder, until the bell over the door chimed and silence fell like a dropped curtain. 2 palace officials in midnight blue coats glided in, snowflakes dissolving on their shoulders. The taller one unrolled a parchment tied with a crimson ribbon. His baritone filled the room. By order of Elias III, Sovereign of Orellana, Ms. Zara Wells is requested to attend the Winter Light Gala as guest of honor. Gasps popped around the counter. Pete, the owner, wiped his hands on his apron. Guest of honor, he echoed, eyes wide. Girl, that's heavier than my skillet. Zara's mind raced, rent overdue, doctor's appointment next week, a single uniform in her closet, yet here stood the crown's envoy, speaking as though she already belonged in a palace. Is this a publicity stunt? She asked, voice barely above the hiss of the grill. The envoy produced a velvet box. Inside lay a pearl-white invitation card trimmed in gold leaf. Her name was printed in calligraphy so delicate it felt unreal beneath her fingers. Zara, I don't own a gown, or luggage, or time off. Envoy, all will be provided. Your only task is to say yes. Pete crossed his arms and leaned close. Listen, kid. When opportunity knocks, you don't ask if it wiped its feet first. Zara exhaled, hand on her belly. All right. I'll go, on one condition. She gestured at the line cooks. They come as my plus ones to make sure I come back alive. The envoy's mouth twitched into a grin. A queen's entourage, then. Hook, but the envelope bears the royal seal. 3 days later, Zara stepped onto a marble landing at Oriana's private air terminal. She wore borrowed maternity jeans and a parka that smelled faintly of diner grease. Yet palace staff bowed as though she already wore a crown. Lady Isolde, the royal stylist, whisked her into a suite lined with gowns on velvet mannequins, silks and moonlight hues, chiffons that shimmered like aurora. Zara's jaw slackened. Isolde, which shade feels like victory, my lady? Zara, laughing, I feel more like Victory's sidekick. They settled on a midnight blue satin column dress that draped gently over her bump and left her shoulders bare. The fabric reflected every candle it passed, turning her into a slow-moving comet. Isolde fastened a simple silver necklace above Zara's collarbone. No diamonds, she said. Your glow makes them jealous. When the palace doors opened to the gala, cameras exploded. Reporters shouted questions drowned beneath the avalanche of flashes. Zara focused on the breath pattern Mimi had taught her, in for courage, out for calm. At the far end of the grand staircase stood Elias, tuxedo fitted like confession, nothing hidden, everything earnest. Even royalty couldn't hide the pure awe on his face. Elias, offering his arm, may I escort the star that outshines my chandeliers? Zara, whispering, I hope your floor is slip-proof, Your Highness. Social media erupted within minutes. At Royal Watch, breaking. King Elias appears with pregnant waitress from viral clip, crowd chanting Queen Zara. At Culture Critic, who else screaming at the Cinderella plot twist? Rian Lock official, tweet deleted in 8 minutes it staged. Don't be fooled. Hook, Monique's jaw drops. And so does Rian's. The palace ballroom tonight looked as though it inhaled every star outside and exhaled them onto candlelight. Elias guided Zara through twirling clusters of diplomats and moguls, each bowing deeper than the last. Whispers snapped like electric sparks. Is that her? She's stunning. The belly means scandal. Elias squeezed Zara's hand. They're scared of change, he murmured. Let them tremble. They reached the dais where royals traditionally greet guests. Instead of mounting it, Elias stopped at ground level, eye to eye with everyone. He cleared his throat, music softened. Elias, addressing the hall tonight, Oriana honors courage, found not in crowns, but in the service industry and motherhood, qualities I aspire to. He turned. Ms. Zara Wells, will you stand with me? Zara's breath hitched. As she stepped forward, ripples ran through jeweled gowns like wind in tall grass. Elias clasped her hand above their heads, applause detonated. Cameras framed the image, king and commoner, baby bump between worlds. High on a balcony, Monique live-streamed the scene, viewers spamming broken heart emojis. Beside her, Rian gripped the rail so hard his knuckles blanched. Hook, that night, the king doesn't just dance with Zara. He defends her. Later, in a corridor lined with ancestral portraits, Zara paused to adjust a slipping heel strap. Footsteps clicked behind her, Rian emerged from a side alcove, expression brittle as iced glass. Rian, congratulations on your performance. How much did he pay you to play the peasant queen? Zara, steady, about the same you paid me for our baby's ultrasound, 0. His jaw clenched. You always wanted a stage. Enjoy the 15 minutes. Zara felt the baby flutter, as though sensing hostility. My child and I have full lifetimes ahead. How long is yours, Rian, until your lies catch up? Rian leaned closer, breath sour with champagne. You're embarrassing yourself. A deep voice cut through the corridor's hush. Actually, that's my job tonight. Elias stepped between them, taller, calmer, lethal in silence. Elias, Mr. Locke, your invitation did not include intimidation. Rian, scoffing, and yours didn't include parading scandal. Elias, smiling, scandal is only truth that frightened men can't swallow. Security appeared, Rian was escorted out. Before the doors closed, Zara called, "You once said I'd never find better." "You were half right, I became better." The corridor erupted in spontaneous applause from staff lining the walls. Hook, the crowd erupts in applause. Overnight, a single image, Elias kissing Zara's knuckles beneath a crystal chandelier, became the most shared post on Earth. Late-night hosts dubbed her Pregnant Grace Kelly. The next morning, Zara woke in a palace guest suite the size of her apartment building's entire floor. She scrolled her phone. Hashtag Zara deserves better still trending. Fan art of her in a crown of sunflowers. Editorials debating succession laws. A knock. Palace Press Secretary Leonie entered with a journalism storm in her binder. "Leonie, some newspapers call you savior, some call you schemer. How do you wish to respond?" Zara, yawning with coffee first. They held a streamed press conference in the Winter Garden. Reporters fired questions. "Are you in love? Will there be a royal wedding? Does the palace approve?" Zara glanced at Elias standing a respectful step behind. She spoke calmly. "Love isn't a headline, it's a heartbeat. As for approval, every mother who's worked double shifts to pay rent has already crowned me with hers." The garden fell silent, then burst into applause, even from seasoned press wolves unused to clapping. Across the courtyard, a trio of nobles watched, pale with alarm. Countess Miran, hissing, "A palace cannot be ruled by hashtags." Duke Loris, "If the king marries her, the council will rebel." Lady Voss, "Then we ensure he doesn't." That night, while Zara video chatted with Pete and the diner crew, a shadow crossed her balcony, too swift for the camera, too real for comfort. Hook, a commoner? With a child? As queen? And somewhere in a dim study, an anonymous thumbs up clicked on Monique's latest DM, ready to ruin a waitress again? Snow hammered the palace windows like an army of white moths. Inside the map room, a circular chamber lined with centuries-old star charts, the Royal Advisory Council gathered around a mahogany table in frosty silence. Robes rustled, quills scratched, courtiers exchanged glances as if passing secret notes with their eyes. King Elias stood at the head, hands clasped behind his back, a thunderstorm hidden beneath calm surface waters. To his right sat Zara, belly prominent beneath a wool crepe coat, the gold napkin folded into her pocket like a keepsake charm. She'd been invited to observe yet quickly realized the word translated to defendant. Chancellor Merritt, silver-haired, voice like rustling parchment, cleared his throat. "Your Majesty, Oriana's Lex Successio states that heirs born outside recognized wedlock complicate the line. Public approval stands at 58% in your favor this week, but donors." Elias raised a palm. "My throne is not for sale at gala auctions." Another counselor, Baroness Casta, leaned forward, pearls rattling. "With respect, sire, elevating a diner waitress to queen invites instability. Your late father spent decades forging alliances. Countries notice when a crown tilts." Zara met the Baroness's gaze. "Countries notice when a crown ignores the people who polish it, too." She felt Elias's silent pride radiate toward her. Casta's lip twitched. "You misunderstand politics, Miss Wells." "I understand humiliation, Baroness. I also understand hunger, rent overdue, and contractions at 3 a.m. in a bathroom stall between double shifts. That's the kingdom I represent." A hush crackled across the table. For a moment Zara thought the council would break into applause, but politics rarely applauds honesty. Chancellor Merritt pressed on. "There is precedent, however unpleasant. His Majesty could step aside for his cousin Prince Alonso, marry whom he wishes as a private citizen." Elias's sapphire cufflink struck the table like a gavel. "Exile for love? If that's the cost, exile is cheap." Gasps. A guard's boots clicked. Countess Miran, architect of royal gossip, licked her lips. Then we put it to a vote? Elias answered with Arctic calm. Vote if you must. I cast mine now, against fear. He turned to Zara and, ignoring centuries of protocol, pressed a kiss to her knuckles before the entire assembly. Zara's eyes glistened, but joy was fleeting. A ripple of whispers spooled from the chamber, weaving through the palace. Somewhere in that echo, plans were already sharpening. Hook, and then Zara goes missing. Midnight draped the palace in velvet. Snow eased to a hush. Zara lay awake in the guest suite canopied bed, stroking her belly in rhythm with the baby's kicks. Her phone buzzed, Pete from the diner. Zara, smiling, I'll bring royal maple syrup home, I promise. Pete, teasing, save me a crown, kid sizes fit my big ego. Their laughter settled her nerves. After they hung up, she drifted toward sleep, eyelids halfway closed, until the sweet lights flickered. Darkness swallowed the room. A rumble of distant thunder? No, footsteps, precisely 4 of them, outside her door. Keys jangled. Zara bolted upright. The doorknob twitched but didn't turn. Elias had insisted a steel bolt be installed after trolls sent threats. A female voice hissed, she can't disappear if we don't get the keycard. Another whisper, try the service hall. There's a vent panel. Zara scrambled for her phone, no signal. Jamming device? Her pulse galloped. She seized the bedside lamp, clutching its weight like a baseball bat. Silence stretched. Then soft taps retreated down the corridor, swallowed by the thick carpets. 5 minutes. 10. Were they gone? She pressed an ear to the wood, nothing. She dialed, but still no bars. Panic's dizzy tide rose. She checked the French balcony doors. Locked. Curtains billowed from a draft, the window pane to the adjacent sitting room slightly ajar. Zara eased it wider, peered out. Snow-dusted parapets connected the royal wing to the old conservatory roof, a stone walkway barely wider than a balance beam. Another rustle in the corridor snapped her decision. She grabbed a fleece throw, wrapped it around her shoulders, and hoisted herself onto the ledge. Wind howled like wolves shaking tin cans. One palm on cold stone, the other cradling her belly, she inched sideways. Below, a 50-foot drop disappeared into darkness. Inside, the door finally shuddered. Voices cursed, bolt. They've bolted it. Heat flared behind Zara's ribs, keep moving. Her shoes slipped, knees bruised. 2 courtiers burst onto the balcony, their silhouettes backlit by hallway lamps. One reached. Zara pivoted, heart in her ears, and slithered into a gardener's access hatch leading down to the conservatory greenhouse. She landed on soil soft as sponge and scrambled behind towering lemon trees. Choking back tears, she texted the only sequence her jammed phone would send, an emergency SOS pin, but the buffering wheel spun mercilessly. No service equals no savior. In a far corner she found a maintenance exit, bolted from inside. She loosed the latch, slid out, and stumbled through a snowdrift toward the city lights beyond the palace walls, wrapping the fleece around her like invisibility. Inside the palace, Elias sprinted into her empty suite moments later, the bolt split, curtains flapping like frantic hands. He roared, a primal sound echoing down marble corridors. Elias, to guard seal the gates. And find her, alive, unharmed, now. Hook, until he receives a text, meet me where you first saw me. Snow softened to drizzling sleet by the time Elias clambered onto the Grand Maravella rooftop, the very ballroom hotel where fate began. Sirens keened distant laments, and traffic glowed below like molten circuits. Zara stood at the ledge, fleece cloak dusted with frost, city wind tangling her curls. She turned, relief flooding her face at the sight of Elias, then confusion. You came alone? He nodded, chest heaving. If one more guard calls you property, I'll exile the entire barracks. She half laughed, half sobbed, wiping tears that felt too hot for a winter night. I'm sorry. Don't apologize for surviving. He neared slowly, hands visible. Tell me what frightened you this badly. Zara recounted the footsteps, the whispers, the jammed signal, her narrow escape. Elias's jaw pulsed like a ticking bomb. Elias, counsel sabotage. They'd rather risk killing the mother of my child than let you ascend. Zara, then for our child's safety, we leave. I disappear, no throne, no danger. You stay king. Elias, a crown without the heart behind it is just metal. He produced a small velvet pouch. From it he drew his late mother's engagement ring, a simple platinum band set with an uncut sunstone, cloudy, imperfect, breathtaking. Kneeling, yet without a ring box, without cameras, without the world, he held it up. Zara Wells, you taught a king that generosity outranks protocol. Marry me, not for a throne, but for sunrise coffee runs and toy trains on the floor and you laughing at my awful jokes. Zara's breath clouded in the cold. You'd abdicate for this? I'd breathe for this. She looked over the skyline, the same lights that once saw her humiliated. Now they watched her rewrite the script. With tears freezing on lashes, she slipped the ring on herself, because her hands had always done the work. Yes. To everything. In the street below, a paparazzo lifted a telephoto lens but caught only silhouettes, a kneeling man, a pregnant woman, and a promise stitched into blizzard air. Hook, he kneels, without a ring box. Dawn fanned peach light across royal guest suite curtains. Zara awoke in Elias's arms, ring glinting like captured sunrise. Palace security buzzed, her would-be kidnappers, 2 junior courtiers under Countess Mirren's payroll, were in custody, phones brimming with encrypted chats about neutralizing a pretender. Elias called an emergency press conference on the southern balcony, identical to the one his coronation speech used. Snow had ceased, the world looked washed clean. Cameras clustered far below. Zara, hair crowned by a knit beanie, stepped out hand in hand with Elias, no tiara required. Her voice amplified across the courtyard. Zara, last night fear climbed palace walls. It was met by love and defeated by daylight. A low murmur rolled through the crowd like thunder too shy to crack. Elias spoke next. I proposed. She said yes. The child she carries will inherit not merely a throne but a kingdom that places humanity above heritage. He took her left hand, letting the imperfect sunstone sparkle. Imperfections are where light gets in. Reporters clapped. Mixed cheers flooded social feeds. Yet inside Council Hall, Chancellor Merritt scribbled furious notes, Countess Mirren smashed a porcelain teacup. Hours later, Elias convened his inner circle. Prepare legislation to strip hereditary titles from those who conspired to harm Zara. A kingdom is safer without traitors in silk. General Ao, head of the royal guard, saluted. The guard stands with our future queen. That evening Zara sat cross-legged on a Persian rug in Elias's study, sorting through baby name books. They joked about latte after their meet-cute, but landed on Solara, from Sol, Latin for sun. The ring stone winked in approval. Fire crackled. Elias watched Zara trace calligraphy for birth announcements. You realize, he murmured, once wedding bands replace this ring, we step onto a battlefield of old money and older egos. Zara closed the book. Then we rescue who we can, outsmart who we must, and raise a daughter who'll never see humility as weakness. Elias grinned. Spoken like a queen who's already ruling. Hook, Zara says nothing, she just cries and nods. A week of honeymoon-like calm passed, until trending topic sirens wailed across every phone screen on Earth. Hashtag waitress witch. Hashtag gold digger queen. Breaking, Zara Wells seduced King Elias for fame, claims source. The source was Monique, broadcasting live from Rian's penthouse apartment, crocodile tears shimmering under ring lights. Zara orchestrated the moose incident, she sobbed to 2 million viewers. She staged the viral clip to trap His Majesty. I have proof. She waved blurry screenshots of doctored texts. Rian paced behind her, unshaven, glassy-eyed. Palace PR scrambled. Zara scrolled, breath tightening. Keyboard warriors hurled venom, memes depicting her as a succubus devouring the crown, trolls calling for DNA tests on the baby. Elias's phone rang. Chancellor Merritt, Your Majesty, Parliament demands investigation. Shareholders threaten to pull Oriana's port investments. The Chancellor's subtext, annul the engagement or drown in backlash. Elias hung up and smashed his phone so cleanly the battery skittered across marble. Enough. He turned to Zara. Truth may sprint slower than lies, but it runs longer. They called Cassidy, investigative journalist famous for toppling oil barons. Cameras rolled as Kessa confronted Monique on a morning talk show. Kessa, Ms. DuPont, your proof appears to be screenshots generated in a text spoofing app. Explain. Monique, stammering that's what Zara used. Kessa, digital forensics disagree. Rian lunged for the mic the king paid her. Monique's eyes widened, she hadn't approved that outburst. Producers muted chaos, but live stream captions picked every syllable. Within hours, Twitter rechristened Monique Monleek and memed Rian's meltdown into oblivion. Stock in Rian's tech firm nosedived 17%. Investors demanded answers, the board installed caretakers, Rian's keycard stopped working before sundown. That night, Zara stepped onto the palace balcony alone and streamed a short, shaky video. I've been called waitress, witch, gold digger, goddess. None fit. I'm just Zara, someone who refused to shrink when mocked, run when threatened, or bend when bribed. Tonight I ask you to believe something radical, that kindness can be powerful, that motherhood can be regal, and that a crown can be earned by courage instead of lineage. 24 hours later, likes outnumbered hate comments 10-1. Bloggers posted side-by-side shots, Monique draped in couture, Zara in a thrift shop hoodie, wiping preschool paint off a toddler's nose in a vision of the future. The caption, guess which woman Oriana wants raising its heir. Rian's downfall accelerated. Whistleblowers lobbed documents showing he embezzled charity funds to finance Monique's influencer trips. International arrest warrants loomed. Zara refused to mention his name again, he no longer mattered. Monique, desperate, pitched a tell-all memoir titled How I Lost a King to a Waitress. Publishers passed, TikTok's duet feature turned the book cover mock-up into comedy fodder. Sales projections, abysmal. Late one evening, Zara and Elias sat beside a nursery in progress. Sunshine yellow walls waited for stencils of galaxies Elias promised to paint himself. Zara, exhaling, we're still standing. Elias, darling, we haven't even begun to dance. He played an old record, Etta James, at last. They slow danced barefoot, laughter ringing through halls once ruled by hushed protocol. Yet beyond palace gates, Countess Mirren convened a gathering in a candlelit crypt beneath the old cathedral wing. Robed figures circled a marble map of Oriana. Mirren's voice sliced the gloom. Modern myth crowns a waitress. Let myth meet reality's blade. A dagger pinned Zara's face on a magazine cover to the stone table. Pushpins and strings mapped security weaknesses, gala schedules, nursery blueprints. At the center, Mirren placed a silver locket containing a lock of hair, stolen from Zara's comb by a bribed maid. Operation Eclipse, she whispered. At the royal wedding, the sun itself will dim. Hook, Zara gets the last laugh without saying a word, but shadows gather for the next move. Snow finally surrendered to the first shy blush of spring, and Oriana's capital smelled of melted frost and street vendor cardamom. Zara, enormous at 9.5 months, waddled through the palace kitchen searching for peanut butter pastries at dawn. Chef Amina bowed in mock reverence. Chef Amina, grinning your majesty to be, you're up before the croissants. Zara, rubbing her back croissants gossip. The peanut butter turnovers keep secrets. A contraction knife through her mid-sentence, sharp, tight, more ferocious than the Braxton Hicks she'd practiced breathing through. The baking tray rattled in her hand. Amina's smile vanished. Guard, she shouted, but Zara grabbed her wrist. It's fine. First one's always dramatic. She was wrong. The second contraction came 30 seconds later, worse, an urgent summons from a child who refused to be scheduled. Within minutes Elias sprinted into the kitchen, dress shirt half-buttoned, hair wild. A third contraction doubled Zara. She exhaled through clenched teeth. Elias, carriage is waiting. Zara, gasping, no carriage. No paparazzi. Just, somewhere close, now. Amina snapped off her apron. My cousin's bakery is 2 blocks outside the palace gate. Industrial ovens keep the back room near sterile, and there's a proofing table, solid maple. Guards protested, Elias overruled them with a glare. They slipped through a service exit while dawn still painted the city in muted gold. Sirens stayed silent, Elias paid the drivers with knighthoods in advance. Inside the bakery, flour dust hung in the air like holy mist. Zara collapsed on the proofing table as Amina boiled water and ripped linen into strips. Contractions roared, primal and relentless. Elias braced her shoulders, Amina coached her breathing, the city outside remained oblivious. Amina, steady on the next urge, push like the whole world's crown depends on it. Elias, kissing Zara's hair because it does. With a final, guttural cry, Zara pushed, and their daughter slipped into Amina's waiting arms, slick with newness and bawling like a trumpet of victory. Dawn's sunlight shot through the frosted window, haloing them in molten amber. Elias cut the cord with hands that had once signed peace treaties but now shook with tearful awe. Zara, hoarse, weeping, welcome, Solara. Welcome, little son. Phones exploded within minutes, first the midwife's secure line, then palace dispatch. But before protocol could swallow the moment, Elias texted the world himself. She's here. She is perfect. And she was born where bread rises, not where thrones sit. Hook, the future heir is born in the back of a bakery. 7 weeks later, cherry blossoms embroidered the avenues between palace and parliament. Elias had refused a marble vault royal wedding. Instead, he erected a circular wooden stage in Maravella Commons, the same public park where ice skaters twirled in winter. Anyone could attend, no velvet rope lists, no gold-plated invitations, just phone barcodes downloaded free. The stage was rimmed by planters of wildflowers picked from refugee farms the crown had recently financed. Zara's gown cost €38 from a second-hand boutique, ivory linen, empire waist to accommodate postpartum curves. Her veil was a crocheted net loaned by Mimi, the senior waitress, now manager of the renovated Grand Maravella ballroom. Elias waded barefoot, soles touching the same ground as his people, wearing a tunic handwoven by Aurelian and artisans. The royal orchestra tuned up, but a portable speaker interrupted with Zara's request, Etta James's at last. Zara emerged from a cobblestone path carrying Solara in a sling of soft blue cotton. The crowd of 30,000 parted like tide before moon. Phones lifted, but applause drowned the shudders. On stage, Archbishop Sonogo raised an eyebrow at the lack of scepters and kneel cushions. Archbishop, lo your grace, tradition. Elias, smiling, tradition is a map, not a prison. They spoke vows they'd written on cafe napkins at 2 a.m., promising laughter on hard days and courage on quiet ones. No titles, just names. Solara cooed at the microphone, the audio tech left it in the final feed. When Elias slipped a hammered copper band over Zara's imperfect sunstone, drones overhead spelled #LoveRules in LED clusters. The livestream peak exceeded the last 3 Olympic openings combined. Halfway down the aisle made of petal-strewn grass, a paper airplane glided from the crowd and landed at their feet. Zara unfolded it. Welcome to the People's Palace. Your waitress family, table 9. Behind the airplane, Rian's old tablemates cheered the loudest. Hook, no gold. No lies. Just love. 3 hours after the open-air wedding, tradition demanded a coronation banquet inside Hall of Ancestors, all brocade banners and taxidermy stag heads. Zara walked in, breastfeeding Solara beneath a floral shawl. The nobility, clad in silk the color of old money, froze like mannequins. At the head table Countess Miran wore widow black velvet, a silent protest. 20 courtiers followed suit, dark as a flock of judgmental ravens. Zara recognized one of the faces, Lady Volta, arrested for her part in the kidnapping plot yet released on bail. Fear prickled the back of Zara's neck. Elias scanned the room, expression glacial. He took the lectern, tapped the mic once. Elias, we planned a feast. But a banquet where my wife and daughter are unwelcome tastes of ash. He turned to Chef Amina. Change of venue. Gasps ricocheted. Within 45 minutes every palace van shuttled tables, linens, and crystal to the Moonlight Diner, Pete's renovated restaurant, now community-owned. Locals hooped as fleets of tuxedoed aristocrats staggered through neon doors beneath a flickering sign that read "All Welcome." The smell of burgers and truffle oil collided in joyous rebellion. Waitstaff handed out sliders on silver trays. Radio blasted Afro Soul. Countess Miran sat bolt straight in a vinyl booth between teenagers sampling bottomless milkshakes. Zara served plates herself, swapping royal wave for server's nod. Camera crews broadcast nobles chewing cheeseburgers beside bus drivers. Hashtag thrones and cones trended before dessert. By midnight, polls showed public approval of Elias's reform agenda soaring past 80%, while black velvet aristocrats were memed into oblivion. Hook, the media calls it the most human coronation in history. Rian Locke's spiral accelerated. 2 whistleblowers, spurred by Zara's balcony speech, delivered a terabyte of evidence to Aurelian and fraud investigators, offshore accounts, phantom employees, crypto payoffs, every scheme traced back to Rian. Interpol issued a red notice. Rian fled to a private island rumored to be his shell company's headquarters. But the island's government, eager for Aurelian and trade credit, revoked his refuge. Rian boarded a yacht. Cameras caught him vomit-drunk in rough seas. Monique, clutching a one-way ticket to reality TV rehab, dumped a glass of champagne on his head mid-dock and live-streamed it. Consider this closure. Views, 42 million. Back in Orellana, Zara donated Rian's unpaid child support judgment, awarded automatically when paternity papers surfaced, to a new single-mother microgrant fund. She declined interviews. The gesture spoke louder than commentary. Monique's memoir proposal flopped everywhere except a vanity press. She self-published. Reviewers on Book Talk roasted the typos. 1-star review read, "Plot twist, you still lost." At a garden party for the microgrant launch, Zara read the first application aloud, a 17-year-old refugee mother needing $400 for vocational school. Elias approved the grant on the spot plus a full scholarship. Cameras captured Zara's simple nod of gratitude, a queen-wielding generosity as a weapon sharper than gossip. Hook, Monique writes a book titled How I Lost a King to a Waitress. It flops. 1 year later, Maravella Commons buzzed under summer constellations. A new circular amphitheater, funded by redirected aristocratic endowments, hosted the first Courage Congress. Thousands of single mothers, service workers, and scholarship students filled the seats. Instead of thrones, Elias and Zara sat on reclaimed wood stools at stage center. Zara stepped to the mic wearing a sunflower yellow jumpsuit. No jewels except the imperfect sunstone ring. Solara, now toddling, clutched an oversized crayon and scribbled across a blank canvas beside the podium, her own royal signature. A hush fell. Drones hovered, feeding the planet a 4K close-up of a former waitress ready to carve her name in global stone. Zara. A year ago, I balanced trays heavier than my hope. A man mocked me, a world watched. Tonight that man sits wherever regret keeps its prisoners, while I stand where humility built a throne. Royalty doesn't live in castles, it lives wherever courage refuses to bow. If you have ever been belittled, bankrupted, abandoned, or embarrassed, this stage is proof that humiliation is just pre-recorded applause for your future victory. Your crown may be a nursing badge, a transit pass, or a flower dust apron. Wear it until the world learns to kneel before everyday queens. Tears streaked cheeks across the amphitheater. Even hardened reporters lowered cameras. Elias joined her, lifting Solara onto his shoulders. The toddler squealed, "Mama," into the mic, the sound looping through newborn reforms. Elias addressed the assembly. From this night forward, every royal decree requires civilian review. Because a kingdom must kneel to its people before it asks its people to kneel. My wife taught me that. Spotlight dimmed, a single shaft illuminated Solara's crayon masterpiece, a crooked crown hovering over a stick figure family, mother taller than king. The crowd erupted. Fireworks embroidered the sky in gold threads. Somebody projected the gold napkin quote across the palace walls in 50-foot letters. "You deserve more than crumbs." Zara squeezed Elias's hand. "Remember the ballroom ceiling? All those painted stars?" He nodded. She gestured at the glitter raining overhead. "Looks like they climbed down to meet us." He kissed her palm, an everyday gesture now broadcast to billions, and whispered, "Long live the waitress who taught a king to serve." Above them, fireworks climaxed into a blazing corona, framing a family once mocked, now majestic, because they chose empathy over ego, courage over comfort, and love over lineage. The end.